You ever notice how pain doesn't just show up? It lingers. It sticks to your chest like something unfinished. You replay conversations, reread the messages, imagine different outcomes. You wonder what you could have said, what you should have done. But here's a truth that cuts deeper than the memory itself. The pain isn't theirs anymore. It's yours. You're the one still carrying it. And maybe no one told you this, but you don't have to. Carl Jung understood this long before therapy became content. He said, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. Because when you finally face it, face yourself, you realize most of what broke you, you let in. It's a hard thing to admit that you didn't just get hurt. You opened the door, you handed someone your worth and waited for them to protect it. But they didn't. They couldn't. And now, it feels like they took something from you. But they didn't take it. You gave it. And that's the shift no one talks about. Epictetus, the Stoic, said, "It's not things that disturb us, but our judgment about them." Meaning what hurts you isn't what happened. It's the meaning you attached, the story you told, the weight you added. So let's start here, with the simplest, most brutal truth. No one can hurt you unless you believe they can. That's not victim blaming. That's power remembering. You're not broken. You're just misled, taught to give everything away, your peace, your trust, your energy, and then feel empty when they don't give it back. But you can stop. Today, you can begin again differently. Let's go deeper. You say you want to stop hurting, but then you keep the wound open just in case they come back and say sorry. Just in case they finally see your worth. That's not healing. That's waiting. And waiting like that, that's self-abandonment dressed as hope. Carl Jung would have told you why that happens. Because there's a part of you you've been avoiding. Not out of weakness, out of habit. We're raised to avoid pain, to patch it, to keep moving. And in doing that, we never look directly at what's underneath. And what's underneath is you. The real you. The one who feels too much, who wanted love and didn't get it, who tried to be enough and was still dismissed. That's the shadow Jung talked about. The part of the psyche you've locked away so you can function, so you can survive. But the problem is, what you bury doesn't disappear. It festers. And every time someone disrespects you, every time they pull away, lie, manipulate, or discard you, it pokes at that buried part. And you don't just feel rejection. You feel all of it. Childhood, shame, fear, emptiness, all at once. And that's why it hurts more than it should. Epictetus would look at that and say, why did you believe they had the power to define your value in the first place? Because they never did. They never could. You assigned them that power. You gave it when you waited on a reply, when you over-explained your feelings, when you thought love meant convincing someone not to leave, when you kept reaching out just to feel seen again. And here's the harsh truth. What keeps hurting you isn't them anymore. It's your attachment to being seen a certain way. It's your hope that someone will return and rewrite the story with a better ending. But they won't. That's your job now. You don't need closure. You need honesty. They showed you who they were. And if you're still holding on, it's not love. It's the fear of being alone with yourself. But that's the beginning, not the end. Because once you face that fear, you stop giving your power away. You stop waiting. You stop explaining. You start listening to the parts of you buried because they felt too much. And in that silence, something starts to shift. You realize you weren't hurt by what happened. You were hurt by the belief that you weren't allowed to walk away. This is the beginning of detachment, not the cold-hardened kind, the clear-eyed kind, the kind Jung called individuation, becoming whole. And Epictetus, he called it discipline, choosing what to let in, what to hold on to, what to release. He said freedom is the only worthy goal in life. But freedom from what? From the illusion that anyone else can tell you who you are. You've been looking out there, at their approval, their affection, their attention for the thing you needed. But everything you needed is inside the part you've been trying not to feel. You want to stop hurting? Don't chase closure. Face the part of you that's still afraid to be seen alone. Because once you see that part, not judge it, not run from it, just see it, that's the moment nobody can touch you again. And that is when you begin to rebuild. You weren't born needing approval. You learned it. Somewhere along the way, maybe early, maybe often, you noticed that being your full self didn't always go well. Too emotional? You were dramatic. Too quiet? What's wrong with you? Too angry? Stop overreacting. Too honest? Don't say that. And so you adapted. You started editing yourself, smiling when you were anxious, nodding when you wanted to scream, saying it's fine when it wasn't. And every time you did that, a small piece of your truth got locked away. Not because you were weak, but because you thought you had to. To be loved. To be safe. Carl Jung called this the persona, the mask, the version of you built to survive the world. Not to connect, but to cope. You didn't wear it for fun. You wore it because it worked. It protected you. It got approval. But here's the trap. The longer you wear the mask, the more you forget there's someone underneath it. You become the role, the performer, the pleaser, the strong one, the one who doesn't need anything. But you do. And when that need goes unmet for too long, when the mask becomes too tight, you break. Not in front of everyone, quietly, inside. That's when the exhaustion hits, the burnout, the anxiety, the constant second-guessing. Because deep down, some part of you knows you're not living your life. You're living the version of it you think will hurt the least. But here's where it gets even more twisted. When someone betrays you, dismisses you, or breaks your trust, they're not just hurting you, they're shattering the illusion you built to survive. And that's why it hurts so much. Because you weren't just rejected, your mask was. And if that mask was all you had left, what does that say about the real you? That's the voice that creeps in, the one that says, you're not enough. But it's a lie. That voice, that's not you. That's the system you internalized. That's your past trying to keep you small. And this is where Epictetus steps in, not to soothe you, but to wake you up. He said, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Think about that. He's not saying be foolish. He's saying stop trying to be seen as strong, smart, right, perfect. Because the second you chase perception, you're no longer free. You're back in the trap. And you know this already. That's why you overthink texts, why you replay conversations, why you feel shame after saying what you really felt. Because somewhere in your wiring, you're still trying to manage how others see you. But they don't see you. They see the version of you that hides your needs. And that version, it's burning you out. So what if, just for a second, you let go of being understood? What if you stopped editing, performing, shaping yourself to be easier for others to love? What if you stopped chasing someone who makes you question your worth and started sitting with the discomfort of being real? That's what individuation is. It's not about becoming something new. It's about remembering what you were before the mask. Rebuilding not from what people expect, but from what actually feels like you. Jung knew how dangerous it was to live split. To say one thing, feel another. To present peace while living in chaos. He said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. That's what you've been doing. Calling pain fate. Calling betrayal a coincidence. It's not. It's a signal. A wake-up call. A breakdown in the mask. And as brutal as it feels, it's not the end of you. It's the beginning. Because if the mask is cracking, maybe it's time to stop patching it. Maybe it's time to take it off. Epictetus didn't talk about feelings the way Jung did, but he understood strength. He understood that to live freely, you have to stop needing people to treat you right before you feel whole. He said, don't explain your philosophy, embody it. That means you don't need to prove you've grown. You don't need to explain your pain to be valid. You don't need to earn rest or peace or healing. You can just begin. but don't expect it to be clean. Letting go of the false self isn't an aesthetic journey. It's gritty, lonely, ugly sometimes. You'll disappoint people. You'll walk away without closure. You'll stop responding to things that used to wreck you. And people will say you've changed. Good, you were supposed to. Because the old version of you was built for survival. This new one, it's being built for freedom. And real freedom doesn't need permission. It doesn't need applause. It just needs truth. Your truth. No mask, no edit. Just you, finally breathing in your own skin. And from here, something subtle starts to shift. You stop asking, why did they do that to me? And you start asking, why did I let them? Not with blame, but with clarity, with ownership, with power. The kind of power they can't take from you, ever again. So now you're here. The old identity is crumbling, the mask is gone, or at least slipping. And for the first time in a long time, you're not trying to win anyone's approval. And that silence? It's loud. No applause, no reassurance, just you. This is the void most people run from. This is where they sprint back to the old habits, the old roles, the old people who kept them small, because at least it felt familiar. But you're not running anymore. Now you build something real. But here's the mistake most people make. They think healing means becoming untouchable, cold, guarded, stoic in the wrong sense. They build walls and call them boundaries. They shut down and call it growth. But what they're really doing is protecting the version of themselves that never learned how to trust themselves. You're not doing that. Because what you're rebuilding isn't armor. It's a filter. A system. Something stronger than defense. You're building discernment. Carl Jung didn't teach you to suppress the shadow. He taught you to know it, to walk with it. Because when you know your own darkness, you're no longer afraid of other people's. You can see their manipulation for what it is. You can sense the guilt trips, the silent treatments, the half-truths. And instead of engaging, you simply don't. You opt out, without anger, without explanation. Because the strongest boundary isn't what you say, it's what you allow or don't. Epictetus understood this too. He said, when someone provokes you, realize that it's your own opinion which provokes you. In other words, it's not the insult, it's your attachment to the story behind it. It's not the silence that hurts, it's what you make it mean. And once you stop giving meaning to people who don't have your best interest in mind, that's the beginning of peace. But don't mistake peace for numbness. This isn't about pretending not to care. This is about caring selectively, knowing that your energy is currency and not everyone gets to spend it. So how do you build this life? This filter, this solid ground where no one can shake you? You start here. 1. You get brutally clear on what cost you too much. Every relationship, every dynamic, every pattern that drained you, write it down. Look at it. Ask, what part of me agreed to this? Not to blame yourself, but to take back the pen. To stop playing victim to choices you never consciously made. 2. You stop calling it trust issues. Call it wisdom. You learned, you got burned, and now you see more. That's not a flaw. That's discernment in motion. Trust doesn't mean handing someone the keys. It means watching how they show up when they don't know you're watching, and choosing accordingly. Jung said, knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darkness of other people. That includes the ones you love, the ones you want to believe, the ones who say the right things but act otherwise. You're not bitter, you're honest. And honesty makes people uncomfortable, especially those who benefited from your silence. 3. You build rituals, not just walls. This isn't about saying no to everything. It's about saying yes to yourself first. That might mean less noise, less screen time, fewer people, fewer fake smiles. But what you lose in attention, you gain in depth. Depth is what you're building now. Not the kind that looks good online, the kind that holds when things fall apart. That's how Epictetus lived. Detached, not because he didn't care, but because he saw the trap. Attachment to things you can't control is the fastest way to lose yourself. So you start choosing what you engage with. And more importantly, what you don't. Not every message needs a reply. Not every apology deserves forgiveness. Not every old friend gets a new version of you. You get to choose who has access. Not because you're arrogant, because you're awake now. This is the rebuild. It's not dramatic. It's daily. It's subtle. A little more silence, a little more space between stimulus and response. A little more compassion for yourself when you slip, and you will slip. But here's the difference. You won't spiral. You won't beg. You won't go back. Because you remember how that felt. You remember the exhaustion. You remember the self-doubt. You remember what it cost to chase people who wouldn't even meet you halfway. And now, you choose different. Not because you hate them, but because you finally love yourself enough not to bleed for people who wouldn't lift a finger for you. And slowly, quietly, life starts feeling different. You feel peace and realize you don't have to earn it. You feel solitude and realize you're not lonely. You feel still and realize nothing's missing. That's the paradox. You thought the pain was about them, but it was always about the parts of you you hadn't reclaimed yet. Now you have. And they can't reach you anymore. Not because you built higher walls, but because you sank deeper roots. So you've done it. You stopped running. You stopped explaining. You stopped pretending the people who hurt you might one day fix it. That version of you, the one who begged to be seen, waited to be loved, swallowed the pain to keep the peace, is gone. And now there's this silence. It's not lonely. It's not empty. It's clean. This is what Carl Jung meant by individuation, not becoming better, becoming whole. You didn't add anything. You peeled things away. You removed the need to prove. You deleted the fantasy that someone would come and rescue the part of you you were too afraid to face. And now, nothing can hurt you the same way. Not because you're invincible, but because you're no longer available for self-abandonment. That's the shift. The world didn't change. People still lie. They still ghost. They still betray. But you don't internalize it anymore. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." You used to react by shrinking. Now you observe. You used to fight for connection. Now you wait for reciprocity. You used to think closure was something they gave you. Now you know it's something you decide. Because real closure isn't about answers. It's about no longer needing them, and that's freedom. You've built it quietly, day by day, thought by thought. You no longer argue with people's actions. You let them speak. You watch. You withdraw your energy not out of spite, but because your peace costs too much to waste. They can call it cold. They can call it distant. Let them. You're not living for their understanding anymore. You're living in alignment with your truth. And that truth? It's calm. It's still. It doesn't need to defend itself, because now you know. You can say no. You can walk away. You can be alone without being lonely. You can love without losing yourself. You can trust, selectively. You can feel pain without becoming it. This is what strength looks like when it stops performing. Quiet, grounded, unshakable. And if you ever forget, if old wounds flare up, if your mind starts chasing validation again, don't panic. Just pause. Breathe. Ask yourself one question. What would I do if I already knew I was enough? Then do that, because nothing and nobody can ever hurt you again the same way when you stop handing them the weapon. This isn't a promise that life will be easy, but it is the end of being at war with yourself. And that's the kind of peace nobody can take. If this reached something deep in you, don't rush past it. Let it sit. Let it echo. And when you're ready, pass it on. Someone else out there is trying to survive the same silence you just walked through. This channel isn't here to go viral. It's here to be real. If you want more of that, more clarity, more truth, more of the things no one else says out loud, subscribe. Like the video if it landed. Share it if someone you know needs it. We're building something slow here. Intentional. Quiet. Not noise. Depth. So if you're still here, you're part of that. And you're not alone. New videos are coming, layer by layer. No rush, just truth. Stay close.